Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Boy, we have no news today. It's going to be really tough to, nothing happened. Nothing at all. But, oh, that's right. Something did happen. We'll talk about that in a minute with Corinne Hines, who is our Montreal blogger. But we'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
All right. So in something that I would have to say was unforeseen in the wrestling world, this is an interesting one because Paul Witt, better known as the Big Show, has signed with AEW Wrestling, which is a direct competitor to WWE. Now, Big Show's never been anywhere else, at least for the last 15, 20 years. He is the modern-day Andre the Giant.
Right.
And he signed a long-term deal. Like, this is kind of a big deal.
I don't know much about AEW, but I know Jericho is with AEW. And is he part of, like, ownership, or is he
no,
just
it's
face?
It's Dusty Rhodes' son, Dustin.
Okay.
He is, and I interviewed him and his wife. His wife is a part of it a couple of years ago when they were just getting it started, and it's starting to make some headway. And look, Dusty Rhodes was a legend, so every one of his kids has been in the business for long enough to know how that business works, and they've been growing. And now they've got like a massive star, not only just in size, but Jericho's there. John Moxley, who, now I forget what his ring name was.
It wasn't Mr. Kennedy, was it?
No, he's a small guy. Guy. I forget right this minute, but he was a good in-ring presence. And then I'm trying to think who else is there. Sting is now there, which again, I'm not sure Sting should be wrestling anymore, but he's there.
Is Goldberg there?
Goldberg is not. He did just wrestle in the WWE for the last time, hopefully for his sake. He's a good guy. But this is...
Don't stand so close to me, Sting? That Sting? What are you talking
about? No, not that Sting. The
not
catch you off the top rope with the stinger kind of Sting. He wears makeup. If you don't know who Sting is, don't worry.
Not Gordon Matthew Sumner.
No. But again, this is a big deal. Like, this is like the biggest challenge anybody has made to Vince McMahon and his organization in the last 15 years. So we'll see how it works out. But
I'm sure Vince will react by taking more steroids.
He's too old for that now, Mike. He's really.
Have you seen how jacked up he is?
No. You haven't seen him lately.
Oh, is he deflated now?
He's getting back closer to a guy his age now. Dean Ambrose. Thank you, Zach. Yeah, Dean Ambrose.
All right, let's go.
All right, yeah. Like I said, we have nothing to talk about.
No.
Yeah, Cody and Dustin Rhodes both own it. Okay, there we go.
Creighton's here, so that's good. Wonder why Creighton's here today. Just curious.
Weird. For a collectible segment.
All right. Hello, Hockey World. It is Wednesday, February 24th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. I was waiting to see if Corinne would go, but
that's curious.
I'm Corinne Hines. I blog for the ads on HockeyBuzz.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And there is nothing better when you're trying to think of something to write about than waking up to hear that
there are significant goings today. Yes,
but the Montreal Canadiens have fired Claude Julien and Kirk Muller. Corinne, thoughts?
Yeah. Thoughts is it was long overdue, to be honest. But now replacing Julien at this point means that Ducharme doesn't really have that much time to take the team in hand. He doesn't have practice time or anything. He's landing in Winnipeg today. Then they're playing tomorrow. They're playing again Saturday. They're in quite the hectic schedule. In fact, I would have liked that to happen before the week off they just had. Unfortunately, they beat the Leafs on that Saturday before the break, and that's what kept Julien.
Is it really up to that? That's kind of crazy. Like if they win last night, if that goal is allowed or disallowed or whatever. Last night,
I think he was still
they said
gone.
They made their mind up before that.
He was still gone, but that win against the Leafs on the Saturday before the week off, that just allowed Julien to stay on life support. It really did. And then you come back from the break and you see that, nothing's actually changed. They're just not performing under this coach. the teams have adjusted how the Canadiens play, and Julien had no answer. He didn't know what adjustments to make for this team to win. And the guys were just not motivated by him anymore, I think. So, after three awful losses.
It's really interesting because, I think, and I get it. What you're saying is right. And, reading Eric Engel's article from last night pretty much called it. He said it's going to happen. It was pretty interesting. He and what is fascinating about this is to the rest of the world, okay, who's looking at Montreal, we're looking at the Canadiens as like they are ahead of schedule. They are a team that shouldn't be a definite like a lot of people put them in second or third place in the division to start the year, and I didn't, but and I like Montreal Canadiens, but I thought that this is a team that's still that last year doesn't make the playoffs if we don't have some kind of weird playoff situation, and I just didn't think they made some good moves for sure, but they weren't like these killer moves. They were solid moves.
Well, no, but, at the end, last season, GI actually told reporters, what do you want me to do with this lineup? He was, just really exasperated, and he said that. And this summer, Bergevin was like, okay, fine, then I'll get you a lineup. And he loaded up, and I was like, here, you've got the guys, deliver. You still do it, it's over. And yesterday, during the broadcast, they showed Marc Bergevin, and his face was just like...
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not very good at hiding his emotions either.
No, that's it. Even with the mask, you could see that there was total disgust on his face. He was just like, "What is this?" Sure. It was awful.
This is the old this is what I love about Montreal, which I'll let Mike go after this because
Ross. I want Ross to go first.
But what I really this is kind of what I've always loved about this organization is there is a level that they hold themselves to. That is very, and more so, I think, than any other team in the league. Like this is the kind of thing that there's no. I don't know how many other teams would fire this coach right now. But I think that at the same time, this is Montreal. That's all you have to say to yourself. It's Montreal, and they've lost 6.
I'll have thoughts on that, but I want Russ to go first.
Good, Russ.
I've been digging into it, and a lot of people are shocked, not just fans, people in the hockey world too.
Close to Montreal, like Corinne, Eric Engels, not shocked at all.
Well, okay, and I think they're not shocked because I think they're used to drama. I don't think for the rest of the world it looks sort of normal because I get that they played 500 hockey their last 10 games, but they still have a good team, a good winning percentage. And now you're going to a guy with no NHL experience. We've covered, both Mike and I covered Ducharme at the 2018 World Juniors in Buffalo. And, he's a good coach, but he none of these players were on his roster. So he probably just knows them from just knowing them and seeing them. But now, like Corinne said, he hasn't practiced with them. You have basically done this at the worst possible time if you're Marc Bergevin, in my estimation.
But I'll tell you, though, why people are not surprised. And it's quite simple. It's because for the first time of his tenure, Marc Bergevin has gone on the record saying this team will make the playoffs. He's been all over the media in Quebec saying, yes, we want results this year. So he can't afford to be as patient as he's been before.
And of course, this isn't exactly being patient either. Like we're only 5% into the season.
This is this is
a lot in a short season.
Up until a couple weeks ago, everybody was saying, "Wow, the Montreal Canadiens are fantastic." They've lost. I think they had lost one game in regulation. That was to Calgary, and then they lost. And then when the month of February came around, teams adjusted, and we even said on the show a couple days ago that the reason for the downturn of the Canadiens was, and we had said that if Kotkaniemi and Suzuki had kept up the level of play that they had played in the bubble, in the playoffs, that Montreal was going to be successful. If they sort of retreated back to, you're talking about a 22 and a 20-year-old center. Right. If they were retreated back to what they, how they played before, Montreal was going to be in trouble. And Montreal was in trouble. Now, I think they're an improved roster. They're 9-5-4. You look at their record in February, they've won 2 games, one against Toronto by a goal, one against Ottawa by a goal. They're 2-4-2. If you look at their overall record, they're 9-5-4. That's not terrible. This is the reaction of a very sensitive organization that I really think, you have an established, really good coach who plays playoff style hockey. In the regular season, sometimes they struggle, and this is a reflexive, idiotic move by Bergevin and this organization.
Whoa. I don't think it's idiotic. I don't think it's idiotic, but I get it.
I'll tell you what the big difference with the playoff bubble is. It's Carey Price. Carey Price in the bubble was amazing.
And
now
he's got an under 900 save percentage right now. Yeah.
53rd in the league. In the league, that's
right. But Ducharme isn't going to cure.
Good sense.
Ducharme isn't going to cure that.
No. But as for the young sentiment, I think the big problem right now is the face-off. The face-off wins. They never start with the puck, so they need to sort that out for sure. But as for Ducharme, he has coached Jonathan Drouin in junior. He was his coach in junior, and he got the best out of Drouin in junior.
Right.
There was a point where people were saying Drouin would be chosen first. So yeah.
Who was his junior player? I didn't hear you say.
Jonathan Drouin.
Oh, okay.
He was coached by Ducharme in junior.
Right.
So
I think it's. I don't think you can call this idiotic, Mike. I think that's kind of going.
Sure, I can. Maybe
you can call it idiotic, but I don't think
maybe I'm guilty of hyperbole. But honestly, this is
maybe something like that.
This is an organization that up to this point I was saying they're at the level, or maybe even overachieving what I thought they were going to do. And obviously the perspective of the Canadiens is, oh my God, we're going to win the North Division. Nobody in their right mind was predicting Montreal to win the North Division except for people in Montreal.
Oh, wait a second, Mike.
I said the Leafs would win, but I thought Montreal would get.
You and Russ had them in second place, didn't you?
Yes.
I mean, that's not that far off of winning the division. I mean, it's not like you had them coming in first place.
Right now, they're 2 to 3 points out of second place.
But this division is absolutely wide open right now. I mean, obviously, this division is tightened up.
This is the worry, and this is where I think it is premature. Even if there is some sort of tension with Claude Julien, you're pretty sure this team is going to make the playoffs. And Claude Julien is a proven playoff guy. Ducharme is not in the NHL. He's a good junior coach, but he's not in the NHL. And you don't know – hold on, Corinne. You don't know how he is going to react under that pressure for that team, where Julien has been dealing with it for years. And you know what? He probably deserved to have this season, even though he could have been fired before this. I get it. But the team's playing okay right now.
Okay, right now in the division, Montreal is fourth. They have 22 points. They played the least amount of games in the division, 18 games. They have 3 games in hand on your team, the Edmonton Oilers. They're equal in games with Winnipeg. They have a game in hand on Calgary and 5 games in hand on Vancouver. Unless they completely screw it up, they're in the playoffs.
Okay. You're saying that Julien is a playoffs coach, but since he's been in Montreal for the second time, he's not made the playoffs a single time on his own merit.
I get it, but is that all his fault?
No, exactly.
On his own merit, he's not made it, okay? And the one time he did it, what happened? He lost in the first round, 4-2 to the Rangers, and they scored hardly any goals. So if you think that's a playoff coach, I mean, maybe he was. Maybe he was back with Boston, but not anymore. Not on this day and age. Don't tell me what he did 10 years ago. I want to know what he can do now.
Yeah, and Boston had a totally different. Boston's stacked with players. I mean, it's totally. I mean, you're talking about a totally different situation.
But last year they weren't a playoff team. They just made the playoffs on circumstances. So I don't think anybody expected them to win anything when they played in the playoffs last year. At least I didn't. Maybe you did, Corinne, but I didn't.
I didn't expect them to make it, but that's another example. Even last year, they made the playoffs thanks to the pandemic, not to Claude Julien. And most of that playoff series in the bubble was played under Kirk Muller's orders.
Now, Julien wasn't there. Why does Kirk Muller get thrown under the bus again? If I'm him,
because the special teams units are
they can't.
Okay, but you know what? Again,
1 goal on 21 power plays.
Maybe that's not his best thing. He is a good head coach material. And if I'm Kirk Muller, I never go back to the Canadiens again. I'm done with them.
Yeah, but Ross, you can't be the head coach in Montreal because you don't speak French.
This is the thing that drives me insane.
Me too.
You can hire a friggin' interpreter. Why does it have to be? I'm okay, and I said this, and maybe I said this for shock value, but I honestly think it's potentially true, except for the language barrier. You're telling me that a guy that went to McGill, that one of the winningest coaches in recent times, who's won a Stanley Cup, who's won 2 Olympic gold medals, who I believe would be very interested in the Montreal job, and that guy's last name is Babcock, is going to be ruled out because he can't speak French.
Yes, Mike, that is what I'm telling you.
Friggin' break.
No, it's true.
I know it's stupid, but that's what it is. And the organization has always said that they need to speak French to be able to speak to the people. But the coach don't speak to the people. The journalists speak to the people. Right. And you can hire an interpreter, like you said. I mean, I've told you before, I think that England hired an Italian for its national football team, Fabio Capello, who hardly spoke English. He spoke very broken English, and he had an interpreter. And no one was mad in England. It was just like, right, this guy's going to make us win, so we want this guy.
Now,
and the way I see it, you need to always take the best people available from top to bottom, be it the coach, the players, or anything like that. I'm just going to finish this, and then I'm going.
Go ahead.
Let me say something here, because I think I mean, there's I agree with the French. Listen, it's part of the culture. There's some you can sit there and say it's stupid all you want to, but it's I get it to a degree. There are qualified French coaches out there that might get looked at kind of that get looked over in other organizations because they are French too. That happens too. So definitely you do see it.
I don't know if that happens.
I think it does happen. I mean, I think that Gerard Gallant would have. But Gerard Gallant would have been coach of the Montreal Canadiens if he could speak French, but he couldn't, so they let him go, as an assistant.
First, and I mentioned this with Corinne, and she agreed. If Ducharme has success, he's going to be the next coach. I mean, he's the interim for the rest of the year, and if they have success, he'll be the next coach. But if we assume that he's not, the list. I mean, somebody's mentioned Guy Boucher in the chat room. I don't think so. Guy Boucher's his resume in terms of going someplace and winning right away and then being a disaster afterward is well established. The one that Benoit Gruel, the former Canadian junior coach who's coaching in Syracuse right now, is somebody who probably would be on the radar. But Elliot Friedman mentioned this name, and I agree. Patrick Waugh.
No.
Okay. The problem with Waugh is that he might be a good coach, but he left Colorado because he couldn't be involved in the roster decision. Right. So he wouldn't gel with Marc Bergevin. That would never work. Or Waugh is the type of guy who needs to control everything, like he does with the Hawk right now.
That's
my favorite hockey player ever.
But I want to say something.
I get it, and I think you're right.
Remember 2 years ago. Michael Therrien was a dope because the Canadiens weren't doing well. And for the last 2 years, he's been a very good positional coach for the Philadelphia Flyers.
Bring him back.
What are you saying?
No.
Therrien is totally disagree with that.
Hold on.
That's insane. How do you think Therrien's been a good positional coach for the Flyers?
He has been horrible. Y'all would have fired him. What do you think? He's been bad?
He's been horrible. Look at the
He's
been in charge of the Flyers power play. That's all you need to say.
That is your hate for him, Eck.
No, all you have to say is look at their power play over the last 2 years. That is his job.
Their power play. You look at their power play face-offs. They were number one in the league.
Go ahead, Corinne.
I'm done with the Canadiens just recycling coaches.
No, I'm not saying they should hire him. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, when you're telling me that right now Claude Julien is bad, or right now Kirk Muller's bad at whatever, I'm telling you a lot of times these guys are put not in their best spot just to stay in the league and be an assistant. But I'm telling you, Kirk Muller can coach. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, but I'll go back to Michel Therrien. When the Canadiens fired him the second time, that was after Carey Price started playing very poorly. And that's how Therrien got fired. What's happening right now?
It's the same thing, yeah.
Well, no coach can
very
fix
poorly.
But no coach can fix that, and the GM should know better. No coach can fix that.
And see,
I don't think that's it. I think what's happening in Montreal, and this, talking to people today, and I've watching them a little bit, and I think Corinne's written about this too. What's happening in Montreal is Julien is showing absolutely zero creativity in anything he's doing, as far as the lines go, as far as as far as attempts to try to fix this, as far as Julian is just considered like this staunchy old school guy who is sticking to his guns and without changing anything at all. Canadian fans who are really smart hockey fans are totally frustrated by it. They're sitting back and they're watching it and they're just absolutely flabbergasted.
What do you want him to change?
I don't know, but I don't want to hear him say, we've got to go back to the basics and keep things simple. That's just tired cliches. You can't say that and expect to keep your job. Not anymore.
It does not fly in Montreal because these fans are smart enough to know that that's just BS, that you're just throwing cliches at them. That's not going to work. You have to actually go out there and I'm not telling you that I have the answers here, okay? I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I'm also not getting paid to be a head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. He should be able to get the answers to this.
Yeah, and with that, I have to leave you because I've got a meeting with the day.
Thanks very much. We really appreciate you coming.
You guys, and enjoy fighting without me.
Yeah, we'll have a good one.
Don't worry, we'll fight without you.
Thanks, Corinne.
A good fight. Don't worry.
I mean, there were some other things they could do. They did have some changes in the preseason to their penalty kill, and Ryan Poehling was on there, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. So again, maybe that's something where they'll call him up and they'll give him a little more chance on the team. But all I'm telling you, Eck, is if Therrien was bad on the Flyers, Vigneault would have flushed him. He has been good with them. This is your hatred of him.
He's been horrible with them. I don't.
He's not been horrible.
You're absolutely insane on this one.
I'm telling you, Vigneault does not let anybody just hang out there because they have, a big name or something. Here's
the issue, though, is the fact that you look at the Canadiens roster and you look who they're playing and you look who they're not playing. And if you're asking Julian, or now you're asking Ducharme to change things up, okay, so is playing Joe Armia and playing Corey Perry and playing Victor Mete more? Is that the solution? Because
that's not going to help you.
Right. Those are the guys who are sitting out. I don't see a great change from playing those guys as opposed to playing players that he's playing right now.
The line combinations that they have of the 12 forwards that are in there. That's really what it comes down to. Those guys, the way he has been completely stagnant with them, and to the point where it's almost like he's just like, well, we're not going to win. We're just the same. It's like repeating yourself over and over and over again. You're going to, and when you fail, eventually you're going to fail.
Okay, their second leading point getter is Jeff Petrie. Their two top goal scorers are the guys that they've brought in via free agency or trade, Josh Anderson and Tyler Toffoli. The vaunted, wonderful Jonathan Drouin has 2 goals. And Kotkaniemi has 2 goals, and Suzuki, who I think is a really good young player, he's having an okay year, 13 points, but he's not playing like he did.
That's a good year, Mike.
Ross, let me finish. I'm saying he's having a good year, but he's not playing the dominant way that he played in the bubble. That's the thing. They expected these guys. They assumed that this was a new step for Kotkaniemi and Suzuki, that they were going to play at that level, and they've sort of regressed back to where they were. And I'm like, that's not bad.
Well, all right. I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room with the Montreal Canadiens, and that is they've been weak down the middle. They're still weak down the middle.
Right.
They rushed Kotkaniemi. They turned him into what they hoped was a number 1 center. He's not. Suzuki is not a number 1 center either. They don't have a number 1 center. Now, Deneau is their best faceoff guy, and he should be their number 1 center, and he's only 51%. He's like 51, 52. That's the best they can do. That is
how many goals he has. This is how many goals he has.
I know, but it doesn't matter. He wins faceoffs. But that's on the GM. They are weak down the middle. They've been weak down the middle all along, and they're like the Rangers in the sense they don't have a number 1 center. They don't.
And what they did in the offseason, and this is where I think is Bergevin.
I've been agreeing with you guys the whole time, but you guys keep telling me they're a second place team.
Is Bergevin?
They are, because
is Bergevin throwing Julian under the bus for his own miscalculations?
I think he is. They do have one of the best defenses in the league. They do, and that's what's keeping them in it. Their defense is very good. It's very improved, and I think it's in the top 5 or 6 in the league. I do. Yeah, and that is a reason they're staying in it, especially with Carey Price not playing at his best. But again, Carey Price is going to figure this out. Ducharme can change some things around. This is the worst job in the world to have as an interim coach, the Montreal Canadiens head coach, because now there's going to be 20 people coaching. Everybody from the owner to anybody in this organization, they're all going to be throwing their 2 cents in.
Yeah, to every ball in Montreal. And see, the thing is, the excuses for Carey Price are over and done with. Now they've got – you can't say, oh, my God, they've got Charlie Lindgren as the backup, so he's being overworked. No, they've got Jake Allen. And Jake Allen has played, 6-7 games? So he's not being taxed in terms of workload. He's just not playing well. He's got an .893 save percentage, whereas Jake Allen has a .931 save percentage. So – I
mean, they could use Jake Allen temporarily just to, sit.
I mean, I think they need to. I think they do need to do that, and I think that's another reason why the coach was changed. I think that they, as much as they love Price, they would just love winning more.
Start the Carey Price to Colorado trade rumors.
No, but I mean, this is a terrible spot for Ducharme to be in. It really is. He is a good coach. He knows what he's doing, but he hasn't coached ever in the NHL. And like I said, he's not familiar with all these players. He has to all of a sudden take over practice. And look, there's guys like Shea Weber on this team. They're very hard guys to coach when all of a sudden you're not an NHL coach and you're walking in there telling them what to do. That's another whole situation there.
I think Shea Weber will be more helpful than hurtful in that situation like this.
It depends, how the coach is. I mean, again, he's getting into the last few years of his career. If this coach wants to reinvent the wheel because they've been boring, like you've said, then you know what? Weber could have a problem with it.
Usually there is a response to a new coach, and a positive response, and a team will have more jump and will have a flourish. If that doesn't happen in Montreal under Ducharme, then I think you're talking about, that Bergevin is going to lose his job at the end of this year.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that could happen if they don't make the playoffs now.
No, I'm with you on that. I think there's a really good chance that could happen. I think that's this obviously Bergevin knows his responsibility. They know, he's been promising they're a playoff team. I mean, that was the issue is they just threw way too much optimism on this team early on. And way too much, and in the press,
it's hard not to when they're winning and they already.
Yeah, but before they even played a game, you guys had been set.
It wasn't the optimism; it was the expectation in Montreal when they were at the top of the division and playing as well as they were. That's what they expected. As soon as they had a downturn, oh my God! Panic in the streets. They're not.
Why did you guys put them in second place?
I'll tell you why.
They're 3 points out of second.
No, but the optimism is you're blaming Montreal for all this optimism and not this.
No.
Before the season started, you guys put them there.
Easy. I'll tell you why I did. Strong defense, Carey Price. That's why.
Okay.
I'm blaming the Montreal fan base, the Montreal media for unrealistic expectations. They expected that team with the changes that they made to win the North Division. That was idiotic and clueless.
Yeah,
I don't think they thought that. I don't think any of them. No one I talked to there in the beginning of the year. I have a lot of people I talked to there thought they were going to beat out Toronto in that division. No one.
I heard a lot of that, Eck.
Okay,
everybody else put them up there like you guys. I put them in fourth, and I felt like I was even afraid to do that. Like I felt they're still
again, like Mike said, they're only 3 points out of second. Like what are we? This is the worst downturn they've had this year, and they're only 3 points out of second.
Oh, I know. And this division has been. There were a lot of teams got off to bad starts. Vancouver's got off to, Edmonton got off to a bad start. Calgary, and these three teams there, they all got off to bad starts. They're all starting to come on.
That there was more of a case in terms of firing a coach for Travis Green in Vancouver and maybe even Jeff Ward in Calgary than there was for Claude Julien in Montreal. It is simply the expectation of a psychotic fan base that can't accept the fact that the team they're not the best in the division, but they're a good team. Let the season play out. But no, they had to panic. They had to fire.
They hit the panic button.
Yeah, they hit the panic button way too. And the only reason I can come up with, and this is based on the evidence that's out there right now, is that Bergevin saw things failing and thought that he was going to lose his job if things kept going down this road, and that's why he did it. And you know what? If Ducharme doesn't turn it around, the same thing's going to happen. But he's going to lose his job.
No question. I think we need to change it up though, because Chuck Fletcher made a really bad miscalculation.
Yeah, let's do that. We're going to talk more about this for sure, but this Montreal.
And then we can get into the sellers.
Yeah, we can do this.
And then we'll get into the sellers. But this Flyers move the other day, I didn't get it. When I saw that Mark Friedman was on waivers, I didn't understand, because I'm like, okay, as bad as there are with teams, especially in your own division, why in the world would you put a useful NHL depth defenseman who's fast and has a little bit of physicality to him on the waiver wire when you could send down Sam Morin? And if Sam Morin gets claimed, hey, you know what? You tried your best with him, and that's that. But they kept Sam Morin over Mark Friedman. That's basically what they're doing here, and that is a bad miscalculation.
Yeah, and then Pittsburgh, of course, grabs him. Pittsburgh, Hextall knows him, drafted him, likes him, picks him up.
Did they fear that Pittsburgh would claim Morin?
No, I don't think anybody would have claimed Morin, but that's my point.
They should have known that. They should have known that Hextall would claim this.
Of course. Again, I'm going to go back to, if you go on my website, I covered a USHL tournament with Provorov and Friedman when it was in Hackensack, New Jersey. There's no doubt the Flyers were there because they saw what they saw in Provorov as well as I did, and as well as Mark Friedman, who played in that tournament as well. I wrote about both of them. They got both of them. So clearly, you can figure out, if you're a GM, that Ron Hextall is going to claim this guy. Like, it's a guarantee, as bad as their defense is. But you also could know that if you put Sam Morin on the waiver wire, he probably leaves it alone, because he knows as well as everybody, Sam is still a long-term project, whether he's a forward or a defenseman. He's probably never playing in the league. But Friedman can play in the league. You can put him in your lineup, and now he's going to play against your team. It just was a bad move. It's just
No, I don't disagree with you at all.
Now you're short a defenseman. Like, now Shane Gostisbehere is even more valuable than ever, and he's not good.
And the strange thing about this is also that you have like the idea here that, but Pittsburgh is in a weird spot though, because they have to keep him on the NHL roster.
But they will.
They probably will.
Yeah, they'll send Chad Riedel down to Scranton Wilkesboro.
Yeah, and as long as they do, but if they don't, then I've heard the Flyers could grab him back. It's kind of a
weird. Then they can place him in. Then they can place him in Lehigh because they're reclaiming him.
Right. So I think that they basically have tied up, like Pittsburgh in making that move has decided that he's going to be an NHLer for the rest of the year.
Right.
There's no question about that.
Which is an upgrade for them. They needed the help.
Yeah, they did.
Again, remember, being an NHLer for the rest of the year doesn't mean he's playing every game.
Right. He's just on there. He's on the roster.
He's on the roster. And so this is a smart move by the Penguins. It is an obvious move. Like, I give Tony Androkidis credit, because when I heard about it, I tweeted yesterday that I believe a team will put in a claim for him. And he covers the team all the time. He's got his own website. And he basically said he was shocked by the move. And so, a day later, we should not be shocked at this. But again, this is a position that is not a position of strength for the Flyers at the moment.
But this is the thing that I don't understand from looking from an outside perspective. Comparing it to say a situation that I do know about, which was Toronto having to put Aaron Dell on waivers when they did, because they had really no other option because of the cap situation to put Dell on waivers, and they knew that Dell was going to be played. Here in this situation, Fletcher had options. Even if it was Morin, he had other options that he could have done to sort of massage the cap or sort of massage his roster to not explode. Now, the only thing I can think of, Russ, is this is not a Fletcher guy, so he doesn't care that he puts him on waivers.
Well, again, technically neither is Morin, but I guess just because AV took a shine to him and said, I'm going to try him at left wing, and it's not working, that
not yet.
It's on the roster. But is Andreoff still on the roster, or is he back on the taxi squad? Because that's another guy. If you send him down, who cares?
Yeah, no one's going to pick him up either. I know. I don't get it. The only thing I can think of, I haven't been able to confirm this, but I've been trying as my hardest, is that they're really close to getting Ekholm. I think I think that there's something. If there's something to that,
but they still need the depth. Even if you're close,
to the depth, but we don't. But I'm not sure. I feel as if that this is a move that they're comfortable enough making because they know they're another.
Okay, but again, Morin makes more money than Friedman, so it's like if you're trying to get Ekholm there, Friedman's the cheaper guy to keep on the roster.
Yeah, and Andreoff is still on the roster.
and he's still on the roster. Like, you could have sent Andreoff down, and nobody would touch him. Nobody.
And right now, according to Cap Friendly, they only have 10 forwards up, so they're going to have to call, a Turinsky or a Shushko or Moran.
I think Shushko got his audition. Maybe they'll call up Tanner Lisinski and give him a shot. I would love to see that.
Yeah, so they got to try something like that. I agree. I don't know.
But this isn't a good move by Fletcher, even because, and I'll tell you why, even if you believe you're getting Ekholm, you don't have him today, and now you're weaker in defense today than you were yesterday.
And I'll just mention, we don't want to talk about it lengthy. I just mentioned it because the Sabres won 4-1 yesterday in New Jersey. So the only team that they have beaten since they came back from COVID is the Devils. And for the second game in a row, Jeff Skinner did not play. So I don't know. Again, not to spend a lot of time on it, but this is a staring contest between him and Ralph Kruger.
Oh yeah, there's no question. No question.
I don't know where it's going to end because Skinner's contract is immovable. He's got a no-move clause. He's making $9 million. It's 6 more years. They can't get him to waive the no-move clause to be on the expansion draft. Maybe that's the end game. I thought a few weeks ago that the end game was get him to waive his no-move clause so they can sweeten the pot to Ron Francis and get Seattle to pick him in the expansion draft. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you maximize the value of somebody who's been a 25 to 30 goal scorer for most of his career by sitting him in the press box and having him stew. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Like perfect example, like Yanon Sama in the chat room goes, hey, Moren's an AHL ringer, no foot speed. Like, we all know this. He was a Paul Holmgren guy. I know I went back to it for a minute, but he's a Paul Holmgren guy. I don't understand who in the organization, other than him being a great guy, still feels like he needs to be around.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing, though.
Winning's more important.
There is a lot of speculation. We're going to talk about sellers in a minute. There is a lot of speculation about Ekholm and Ak, you just said about. I would find it hard to believe that in a deal for Ekholm that Frost would be included, since Frost is out for the year, unless they don't care about the fact that he's injured and he's out for the year.
I don't think Frost will be included in that at all. They are very high on
Frost. Could be included. I would definitely not say he's not going to be, because at the end of the day, the Flyers are not trading at a position of strength. They're not. And Poyle has them over a barrel now because, again, we've talked about it. Their season can go one of two ways. And if their defense starts failing them, and since Carter Hart isn't playing like Carter Hart of last year, they might not make the playoffs. And so if Fletcher doesn't make the playoff and he doesn't make a move for a defenseman, or he fails at making a move for a defenseman, we're still going to be talking about Matt Niskanen for another year next year.
Yeah. And there's also, that's the other thing that's kind of crazy is going on, is there's suddenly all this like murmurs way underground, but it's there that Niskanen's going to come back, and it's crazy that I don't know whether or not it's coming back, but there's a lot of people now all of a sudden in the last week or so that are being very, very sketchy about it. I'm not saying he's going to come back, but there's a undercurrent of
like that with Buffalo too, and it never happened.
I know, but I think that. I don't know.
Cleared, by the way, for people who are wondering. He actually cleared.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get Ekholm for nothing, that's for sure. But I don't know that
not for nothing. It's going to cost a lot.
Oh, yeah, it's going to cost a lot.
It's one of the best defenseman you could get in a trade or on the market this year.
I mean, I think they would trade a first-round draft pick before they have
to. They have to. They don't have
a. It's not. Again, it's not going to be.
I don't think it's going to be a first-round draft and Frost. That's what you're talking about.
No. I think
it could be.
I don't think so.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be equivalent to the deal that Toronto made for Muzzin. It's going to be a first-round pick, a NHL-ready player, and a good prospect. And if you extrapolate that for the Flyers, that means a first-round pick, a guy like Frost or. Who's the defenseman? Cam York or somebody like that, and then
I see a Cam York type thing,
and then somebody who's on the roster right now who's young.
But they don't need York; they need offense. They have plenty of defense, so they're not going to want a Cam York. They're going to want.
Well, actually, they don't have plenty of defense anymore.
Yes, they do.
That's the first time that Predators are kind of weak.
They've got Ellis. They've got.
And they're giving up Ekholm in this deal.
They've got Yossi, they've got Fabro, and they've got David Ferentz.
Ferentz is coming at the end of the season. and he is as good or better than Ian Mitchell playing right now for the Blackhawks. I think he's better. He can walk right in there and play. So they're fine on defense. They're going to look for offense, and they're going to ask for guys like Frost and Konechny, and the Flyers are going to have to give up something here because there isn't anybody else they can go and get to play the role that they need. This guy can. Who else? Otherwise, tell me.
I think
I don't see any way.
I think they're going to ask for Patrick or Farabee.
Yeah, I think they'll ask for Farabee and they'll get denied. I don't know if they want Patrick. If they want him, they can have him for sure. And that might satisfy the offensive part of it. That'll be up to them and how they view him. But again, this is not a cheap trade because Ekholm doesn't make any money and he's got a year of term. Right. And for a team like the Flyers, it's easy to fit him in, and that costs you more. You know that it does.
He makes less than Gostisbehere. So it's like, and then if you turn around and find somebody to take Gostisbehere off your hands, then you have some cap flexibility.
Yeah, and by the way, and if Gostisbehere goes back in that deal, then not only are you giving up Frost, you're probably giving up a first and a second next year and another prospect.
Well, that's why. See, I don't think that the Gostisbehere would be included in that deal, Russ, because every indication out of Nashville is that they want to be able to protect 3 defensemen.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't think he'll be included.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think you guys are overestimating what it's going to take to get Ekholm. I really do, based on what I've heard, at least out of Nashville. I mean, I think that it could be. I mean, anything's possible, but I think that I think those the players you're going for, we're looking at much more like prospects, and I've heard a defenseman could go back too, because even you could sit there and say, yeah, they have.
Yeah, sure, it could be like Robert Hagg. People are asking in the chat room, what have happened to the Flyers defensemen? Nothing's happened. It's just everybody who's up is up, and then you have the next wave of like guys like Cam York and Adam Yinning, and all those guys are a year, 2 years, 3 years away, depending on which draft you're talking about and which defenseman you're talking about.
How's that Eric Gustafson signing going? How's that Eric Gustafson signing going?
No goals, 0.
Real good. That was good. We couldn't see that one coming, could we, folks?
No, and this is where Chuck Fletcher is going to get in a little bit of trouble here. He can't work his way out of it, because that was his answer to losing Niskanen was, hey, we got Eric Gustafson. We're going to reshuffle the deck here, and it's still a problem.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'm not defending the Gustafson signing or anything like that.
I know.
I'm just looking at this, like, from what I've heard. It depends how many teams are out there, how many teams are going to are willing to get it, and how much they want to get in on Ekholm. Like, that's
I know there's at least.
No, it's going to be at least 4 or 5.
At least 3 teams, maybe 4. I'm telling you, Winnipeg is probably.
Winnipeg will be in on that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Winnipeg, Philadelphia. I've heard Boston might be in
Boston being in on it.
He's a Boston type of player.
Yes.
And they could give back a young defenseman who is not ineligible for expansion, like somebody like, I think, Lawson or
even Vakanainen's probably ineligible.
Yeah, Vakanainen I think is exempt, so they could give Vakanainen in a first and something.
Right. No, it's going to get interesting, but I think that the one thing that I do believe with the Friedman. Is it just a simple miscalculation, total mistake? I don't think so. I think that they believe that there's something else happening for them to. It's not like Fletcher to do this without something else going on. But whether that other thing that's going on is a good move or not, we don't know. But I'm just saying, in his head, he might. I think that we're going to see another shoe drop here.
Well, the only thing that, and I just looked at it right now, and they have 49 contracts. They were at 50. So by waiving Friedman, that opens up 1 contract space.
Right. So
this is the worst time to do it. They didn't need to do that.
Right.
Yeah. No, they haven't needed to do it, but it depends on what they're looking at. I mean, if they're going to move for Ekholm and do it with purely
draft, they're not going to need another contract for that.
Yeah, well, you might. You might need a contract because
more
if you're
than
not,
likely it's going to take multiple. It's going to take multiple draft picks. See, if it takes multiple draft picks and one player, then it's one contract in, one contract out.
Right. That's probably what's going to happen.
Right. If they want to make other moves after that, then they really, and then Friedman was somebody. Okay, we don't care if somebody claims. We know somebody's going to claim him. That gives us some space to move around. Maybe that's it.
Right.
All right. Let's talk sellers. Come on. Let's do it.
Yeah, I guess we should start with Nashville there because we are right here now. I mean, the Preds are this is a very different situation, and a lot of people are calling for David Poile's head all of a sudden. I've heard that too, right? Which is not,
Oh my.
And they got X head instead.
Yeah, and as soon as he said call for David Poile's head, he called Google, and they
knocked him out.
They knocked out. All right. Well,
here's what I was told last year, Mike.
Okay.
Even if David Poile is not the GM, that he probably has a job for life there.
Sorry, I bring up my notes and I closed you guys.
As soon as he said David Poile, his job is in danger, he called Google and had your YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I was told last year.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he's not the GM, he probably has a job for life. So fans calling for his head doesn't matter. He's still going to be in the organization.
Oh, he's definitely going to be part of the organization forever. There's no two ways about that. He might, whether or not he, like you say, the question remains on how, on where that is. Like if he's a president or he's going to be part of that team. There's no question about it. Their salary situation, they have some players that are, looking at the guys that they're, UFAs for them coming up. Granlund obviously jumps right out at you. Hala. They've got
Brad Richardson is somebody that they supposedly is a potential trade commodity as a fourth line center. He's on IR right now.
Yep.
And Ekholm we've mentioned.
They've got Lucas Spiza, who always seems to get moved at the trade.
Yeah, the other one which was interesting, and you know him well, Ak, is Nick Cousins. He's got a year left, a year more at $1.5 million. He played well.
Yeah.
He's played. And he was moved last year. I think it was Vegas from Montreal, and he's a guy who can play in the bottom six. He plays with an edge. He doesn't cost a lot.
Yeah.
You probably get him for a mid-round draft pick. It's not going to be a big payoff. Same thing with Richardson, but the big payoff for them is going to be Haula, Granlund, and Ekholm. Ekholm especially. That's the thing. I think Poile has to hit the home run with Ekholm. He's got to get that pack. I was talking about. If he doesn't, then the people who are calling for his head have ammo.
No, he does for sure. He does. I agree, and I think that's, it depends. It's just we'll see how much that is, but I think it's a little bit. You think you guys are overplaying it a little bit, but we'll see based on at least what they think they can do. I think Cousins they're gonna. No, I don't think they're gonna move Cousins. We're talking to people there. I think that they are really pretty much set on keeping Cousins around. They like you say, he's reasonable. And he can play a third line. They don't have a whole lot of players signed beyond next year. They really are.
Right.
Well,
and Cousins isn't signed behind next year either. But they'd like to keep, No,
but the contracts that they'd like to move are the boat anchors. It's like you'd love to move Ryan Johansson, but who the hell's taking $8 million a year for 4 years?
Yeah, they've got $16 million tied up at the top that they can't touch.
Yeah, you'd love to move Matt Duchene. You're not going to move Yossi. You're not going to move Ellis, and you're probably not going to move Rene because Rene's been there his entire career, and he wants to probably retire as a Pred. And I think he has a no move, so he probably wouldn't even acknowledged any kind of trade someplace else. So
they're just going to need some guys to fill spots next year. So Cousins is fine because they're not going to be overly competitive anyhow.
But you're talking about those 5 players, and honestly, if you move all 5 of them, you're probably going to get a first-round pick, a second, a third, a fourth. You're probably going to get 3-4 extra draft picks, and you're probably going to get 1 or 2 good prospects, and that's a good start to sort of read.
Yeah, they need a couple of roster players for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. The next team I'd go to is, and they're in the race right now, but I keep hearing Arizona is going to be a seller.
They're going to be a seller because they don't have the money.
Right, and it doesn't really benefit them. Making the playoffs doesn't even benefit them that much right now.
Correct.
That's weird because Elliot Friedman said it yesterday on Vancouver radio that he had heard that the Coyotes were interested in Tanner Pearson, who is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So he's a rental. And if you look, okay, Arizona's in the race right now. Russ, you wanted to bring up the mishandling of one of their former top picks because
who was it last night?
Barrett Hayden.
Barrett Hayden. So let's talk about Barrett Hayden next. So
yeah,
he goes like 5th in the draft. They use him right away. They play him like, I don't know, would they play him 20 games? He had a few points, and they were like, all right, you know what? You're not quite ready. We're going to send you down. They do. And I think he finished out in the AHL that year, but he didn't play a ton of games. And so then you look at Barrett Hayden again this year, and he played in Liga. And so then what do? They bring him back. They put him right in the lineup again at the age of 20, even though he clearly wasn't ready last time. I don't know what they thought made him more ready this time. And he gets fewer points. He gets 3 points instead of 4, and then they send him down. My basic point is you're talking about a guy who's 20 years old, who's only played 34 NHL games and 5 games in the AHL because they stopped the season last year because of COVID. He hasn't played that many games. This is the classic situation of how you want to screw up a prospect. They're doing it to him right now.
Interesting. That is interesting.
Yeah. Now, I mean,
where Arizona gets really fascinating is they have a ton of UFA defensemen.
Yeah.
Right. And they, I mean, basically everybody except for Chikrin is a UFA defenseman.
Right. But I think only 3 of them really have value. And the question is, how much value does – I think Goligoski has value. I think
Jason Ramirez has value too.
I think Yarmelson has value to a few teams.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Jason Demers because we've heard his name out there and nothing has happened yet. But I mean, yeah, you've got half their defense are UFAs. They could get draft picks, and God knows they need draft picks because they've lost a first, a second, a couple. They've been penalized draft picks. So yes, they would probably need to replenish, but I don't know if they're in the playoff race. You think they're trading those guys? The
big question is, no one really knows. The assumption, if Friedman says they're going out and trying to buy things, that's not what I've been hearing at all. Like I've heard.
What they might do, is that they may buy and sell at the same time.
They probably will buy and sell based on what I think they'll do is they'll get rid of guys with more term and get guys that have less term and are cheaper. And so that way you can buy and sell, and you technically could possibly stay in the race, but they don't have the money to pay Kempman now the next few years. I don't even know if they have enough money to be an organization in the NHL anymore. I mean, that's the reality.
No, and you really are going to see some interesting. I think they're going to be a team, and they're going to flood the market with those 3 defensemen. I've been told.
Okay, I'll make a wacko prediction.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's not this year because he's having a pretty decent year right now. But I said this before that I don't think Connor Garland will be on their roster next year because they actually have to pay him.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a situation where they could get a significant return for a 24-year-old forward like Garland, who's had 2 good years in a row. And
he's a sniper on the power play.
And he's a sniper on the power play. And right now, if you look at their situation, they don't have a 1, they don't have a 3, and they don't have a 7 this year. But they do have 2 seconds and 2 fourths. So it could be a situation where they trade for Pearson and trade a second-round pick for him and then get first-round picks or something back for some of the other players that they end up trading.
Right. That's interesting. Another team is the San Jose Sharks, and they've got they're another team to look at. Now, they don't have a whole lot of players that they can, obvious players. They don't have the obvious UFAs. The one they do have that is going to draw some interest is going to be like Dubnyk, Devin Dubnyk, depending on health and stuff like that, where he is.
Yeah,
he's a guy who when you look at you need 2 goalies in the league, he's not a bad second goalie to have.
Listen, he's still a decent goalie. I've seen him play this year. He's had some very good games, actually.
So I think that he's a UFA next year. So he could be definitely a pickup that you could see somebody.
Yes.
How about
Capitals going after?
How about Devin Dubnyk as the backup in Colorado?
Yeah, he's possibly there or Washington. I've heard Washington.
Actually, I'll be honest. I think Washington should just start playing Anderson more because in that game that they came back and he won. He started to get better, and Samsonov, between the ATV accident and then COVID clearly isn't going to be right this year. And Vanacek yesterday and really for the last week or two has been marginal. I think they should go with Anderson and see what they've gotten him first, because when he gets hot, he could reel off 5-6 wins.
I agree with you. I agree. I'm surprised they haven't tried it. They haven't just done that yet, because they really need to.
Now, this one last year, right around the deadline, when I was in the press box in Buffalo talking to a reporter, right before the deadline, Thomas Herzl got hurt. And there was a lot of talk about Thomas Herzl being traded to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Herzl's got a year left at 5.6. He's had 6 goals this year. He's having a decent year. Clearly, there's something with Herzl that his name is always out there in trade talk.
People see him as a very, very talented player.
And I'm not saying he's not, but for some reason, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. His name is always out there.
Oh, yeah. No,
I would think that is, along with, the Marcus Sorensens and, I don't know if the Patrick Marleau is going to agree to be traded again. He's been
probably not. I think he's staying.
Yeah, I think this is probably it for his career. But Herzl is somebody that I think we should watch, because for a team that is looking for a top 6 forward who can play the wing or center, Herzl might be a fit, and that might be an impact move that we don't see coming, but that could happen.
I agree. Ottawa is, of course, another team that is going to definitely be a seller.
They're a seller every year, so
they're a seller every year. People have talked a lot about Derek Stepan.
He got hurt last night.
I know.
Yeah, but he'll be around at the end, I'm sure.
He's still a 6.5. He's a big cap hit, even though.
Well, they're
going to have to keep salary.
They'll have to retain salary. Yes.
They'll retain salary. Anisimov has some value too.
He does. He does.
He's a good role player you want in the playoff run. As is perhaps true with Dzingel, who they just picked up, but they could.
They brought him back to keep. No, the guy I think has the value, and again, they'd have to retain salary on him. But I can just see a playoff contender looking for a 4 or a 6 on defense if they will retain salary to take Eric Branson.
Yeah,
not as
Branson can go somewhere.
Yeah, if he's a bottom pairing guy making $2 million. Somebody would be interested. Maybe even Philadelphia. I said I connected Philadelphia and Branson before because he's a right shot. I don't know if he can play in the top 4, but if it's a question between him playing in the top 4 or Gostisbehere playing in the top 4, I think they'd rather play Branson.
I mean, raise your hand if you think Ottawa's going to spend money and be a contender next year, like Eugene Melnick said. Well, nobody's raising their hand about that.
Right. No, they're not there yet. Buffalo obviously is going to be a seller, it seems like. We talked about this situation. Taylor Hall will probably.
You mean seller of the franchise or seller of just players?
Yes, Taylor Hall will be moved.
Stall. I don't think they'll move. I don't think they'll move Tobias Reeder because Kruger loves him, even though he's making $700,000.
I heard X spoke to Kruger and gave him, the thumbs up on Tobias Reeder, and that's why he won't move him.
Yes.
I think there's a possibility of Brandon Montour being moved. I don't think they'll want to.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But the issue here is, and maybe they won't be concerned about this because, they're probably going to finish in the bottom 5. Ristolainen, they have no idea when he's going to come back. Will Borgen broke his forearm. He's going to be out for 2 months. Jake McCabe is out for the year with a massive knee injury. They're playing, Jacob Bryson and Matt Irwin and Brandon Davidson on defense right now. Now, again, if they're bottoming out, which they probably should because they're a train wreck of an organization, they should bottom out and trade their rentals and get something for them and start afresh. But because Kevin Adams isn't going to lose his job, he just got hired this year. But I'm starting to doubt whether Ralph Kruger is going to be back. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's in danger. It seems like he's the sort of the foundation of the organization, but the way he's acting with this franchise, I just don't know.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that he's 100% secure there at all.
Let me ask you a big question because I know Middlestad's been skating with the team and he's played some games.
Yeah.
Are they finally doing the right thing by him? I mean, clearly he's another example of a guy who was rushed right out of the draft into the league, wasn't ready, hadn't played a lot of games. They took a shot. It didn't work. So, Mike, how is Kruger handling Casey Middlestat?
He seems to be giving him a little more opportunity this time around, but it's funny. He's cloaking giving Middlestat opportunity over Skinner. It's like he benches Skinner as a healthy scratch, and he says, "Oh, it has nothing to do with Jeff. We're giving Casey Middlestat an opportunity."
Okay.
Yeah. One of the more interesting names out there.
You got nothing to lose.
Will be Ryan Getzlaff. And that's a
no way he agrees.
You're breaking up there, Mike.
You don't think Getzlaff will agree to be traded?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I don't know. I mean, it's
my
possible.
feeling was he's there for the duration. He had a chance, I think, to go last year and didn't want to. That's what I believe happened. And based on that, I don't think he goes anywhere this year. He's already won Stanley Cup.
I don't think he's playing anywhere other than Anaheim.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think so either. Ryan Miller is there too, as another.
Miller's not going anywhere either.
He's not going to play anywhere. I agree with that too, but I'm just, Chicago.
I think
right
Chicago. Honestly, I think Chicago could add.
No, they could. They have the room to do it.
They have the cap space to do it.
Well, then, and that is tied to. And Russ and I were talking about this last night. We have not heard a peep about Jonathan Taves.
Yeah.
And that's
it worries me. I'll be honest. It worries.
Yeah, I'm concerned because I mean, the way this team is playing right now, if they got Jonathan Taves back at the level that Jonathan Taves played in the bubble last year, I think they're a guaranteed playoff team the way they're going. But if they don't know, then they can use this $10.5 million in cap space to go out and acquire somebody at the deadline. But the question is like, what is the future of Taves? It's like, I mean, right now it doesn't seem to be COVID.
Yeah.
We don't know what it is. I don't want to speculate because I have too much respect, but it's just, nothing has come out. Not nary a peep has come out. No,
I agree. It's a really weird situation for sure. Finally, I wanted to get to Detroit, because Detroit's they obviously have some players that are definitely really serviceable trade deadline classics, like Filppula is a great example of like a perfect trade deadline guy that could add a lot to a team. Like I could see him on the Penguins, like doing a really I could see that. It just feels like the kind of player that the Penguins need. That would give them a really like a two-way guy that they could trust more than they have right now. That third center. I don't think
that's going to help them.
Yeah, no, Yzerman's going to have to do a lot of work and a lot of retention to get somebody to take Filppula or somebody to take Darren Helm. I
think Val Filppula just slows the Penguins down. I don't think.
No, but I think that I don't know. I mean, if
you make it to the playoffs, he could have some value. Sure,
it's a playoff move for sure. Bobby Ryan obviously having a really good year.
Yeah, Ryan's useful for sure.
$1 million. He's a real find.
The most attractive thing about Ryan is the $1 million salary.
Yeah,
now it was funny because
bad, but his play has been good.
What was mentioned? I saw a report. I think it was Pierre LeBrun yesterday. He said Ryan. He said Luke Glendening as a face-off specialist, and the reason for that is he's making $1.8 million, and he's a UFA. And the other one, and this will take a little work, but Mark Stahl. I mean, Mark Stahl is making almost $6 million. They would have to retain 50% max on him to get something for him. But Russ, is he capable of still playing on a bottom pairing? And
he can play some shifts, but I mean, look, and he's got like 2-3 goals, these miracle goals that he scored this year. End of the day, he'll do what Bogosian has been doing, and not much more. So there's a small market for that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even if the max that they can retain is 50%, and that would still be $2.875 million. That's still a big chunk. I mean, that's going to be a team that has plenty of cap space, that is a contender, and there are very few teams that have that kind of cap space unless they send somebody back to on top of them retaining 50%, send somebody back to Detroit to retain or to take on salary to open up space for them.
Actually, Funky makes a good point. Like Patrick Nemeth, who really doesn't make much money, is the kind of guy that a team would acquire before or at the deadline just to have that depth.
I've heard his name mentioned too.
3.
I know Detroit actually wants to keep
Give
him.
a 3 at the deadline is 1.5. That's not that big a deal.
Yeah. I think the other interesting name that I've heard is Jonathan Bernier, who has played, not terribly.
Nobody wants Jonathan Bernier. Let's not even go down that road.
There are teams that need capable backups, and it's like we'll see where it plays out. If someone with an injury, you're not going to have Hutchinson as your backup. Like we've talked about this kind of stuff.
They're not taking Bernier back in Toronto. I can tell you that.
I just had to put it out there.
You just wanted to say
Jesus Christ, Dak. Friggin', okay.
You just wanted to drop a bomb.
We sure as hell need somebody so Carter Hutton, he can be our backup and he can be our color guy as well.
Would you rather have Hutchinson than Bernier?
Way to drop a bomb at the end of the show. Nice job.
Rather have Hutchinson?
I'd rather have Jack Campbell.
Yeah, but one of those. But Jack Campbell gets hurt. One of those two goes out for the year. What are you looking at?
Hopefully, Jack Campbell doesn't get hurt.
Listen,
I'm saying
we're going to have to rip Dubas for not having a fourth goalie. I mean,
okay. First of all, Jonathan Bernier makes $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's over. It's over with.
It's
over with.
All right. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you all tomorrow. Enjoy.
Aaron Dell's played once for the Devils. I just want to throw that out.